are joining me, Andrew Hahn, here on FX Street, this Nailing FX US session. We're live at the moment, and if you're joining us from the US, I guess it should be your morning time. So hopefully you're waking up to a good day stateside, and if you're joining us from Europe, welcome from there, or if you're up late like I am out here in Asia, thanks for staying up late and for joining this session today. Now we have some disclaimers here. If just take a couple of seconds to read that, while I also just talk through that if you haven't joined us before, we do have free membership to our tradewithufos.com/Andrew. That's how you can, if you just navigate there, you can join our Trade with UFOs membership, where you will get information on our other sessions that we run. So it's not just me that runs these sessions on Thursday, but we also have folks who run sessions also on the other days of the week. I was trying to get to that page, and usually on Tuesdays, Opa, so next week, and he'll be back again, and Pedro as well, usually also on Tuesdays, but at a different time, and then Ronaldo's usually on a Friday. And if we're not here on FX Street, you can find us on our YouTube channel. And so on the Thursdays I'm not here, I'm on YouTube, same with Opa. Next week he's going to be on YouTube on our channel there, and also Pedro. So so for the coming week, it's really only Pedro who'll be on FX Street on the 24th. And after that on Friday. So do come in and join us there. Okay. All right. So just in terms of things to take note of, we do have coming up in probably about an hour and a bit, Lagarde speaking, and she's also speaking tomorrow. We'll see what so the topic she's going to bring up. You know, this whole COVID situation is exploding, and so everybody's expecting some sort of stimulus, you know, to kind of help countries tie things over, but we'll see what happens there. We also have, other type of information coming out, like more around China and Canada, but I think the biggest thing is currently really what the European Central Bank is going to do, and therefore what effect it's going to have on the euro. So even though we've had this COVID vaccine come out, we've seen some, especially this week, a little bit of a risk-off type of scenario emerging. So we'll have a look at that coming into today's session. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but just as a little bit of heads up, you see in the Aussie, in the euro, we've seen a little bit of a move towards lower prices there on the Aussie and the euro, which intuitively means dollar strength. The pound has been a little bit stronger, but there are some clouds emerging there. So we'll see if we're going to continue some strength of the pound versus the dollar, and then we've seen the the CAD and the yen both being strong, with the oil kind of holding up there, and also with probably a little bit of flight to safety that we're seeing in the yen, and also if you look at the Swissy as well, we see dollar Swiss also move lower. So again, over the last week or so, we have seen some strength there, but then the dollar is gaining a little bit of strength as well. So that's what we've seen coming into here. So even though the climate overall has been down, it should be down. Just recently, I am expecting that it's going to probably move towards a neutral, and then we'll see if we can get some strength coming into next week. We did have this higher high set at one point, which now really is become versus this pivot point here. But as we've moved lower, has set the benchmark for where we need to exceed next in order to get a proper reversal of trend to the upside. But until then, we may be having some sort of double bottom down here as we retest this 92 sort of handle, and as we move towards a change in trend, if that's ever going to happen, we will need to clear that 73.20 sort of area, 93.25, that high there. Put in a new high, a higher low, and then we need to break these two highs here really to get a confirmed uptrend beyond this sort of sideways movement, which could emerge if we don't clear these two highs here. Okay, so that's what we're seeing at the moment. Okay, so that's what we're seeing at the moment. Now, there's a couple of things that we want to I wanted to talk about in this session, and as we move into looking at these markets, which is these two key decisions that we need to make, that form any part of any trade. One of them being when do we buy and when to sell, and how do we answer that question? For us here at Tradewithufos, we really want to address that question, in relation to climate. We're talking about climate, and when we're talking about climate, we're actually talking about the direction, as well as when is that direction changing, right? And so just like whenever you're about to maybe leave the house for the day, you kind of check the weather, right? And so you've got your app on your phone. You can just look out the window. You can listen to the weatherman. I mean, there's different ways to check the climate out there, and clearly if it's sunny and you see some clouds on the horizon, maybe there's a change in the climate that's going on, and so you may decide to take an umbrella, right? Before you leave the house, if that's the case, or if your app or the weatherman says, hey, look, you can expect some rain coming up today, then hey, you may decide to take your umbrella out with you, right? And so in trading, it's the same sort of thing. We want to be able to check the what is more conducive to buying, or is the environment more conducive to selling, right? And so once we are able to determine that, then we ask this next question, which is where do we buy and where do we sell, right? So if it's going to be the right an environment where is more conducive to buy, well, where do we buy? What's that location? And so these are two key decisions, right, that we have to make in any sort of trade, and that's where we come to use ask this question around, well, how do you identify that location? What tools do you use to help you consistently identify those areas where there is a likelihood of a entering a successful trade, right? Because obviously, if you're looking to buy, if the conditions are saying that, hey, it's a right time to buy, then you want to be using some sort of tools, right, or in your methodology or analysis to make that decision, right? So that's what that's what we're on about here is using technology, just like everybody these days has some sort of smartphone, which they use to help them make calls, but there's more than that now, right? It's texting, it's looking at the internet, it's looking at charts, it's looking executing trades, it's watching videos, it's doing so many different things, and so, but you do it because it's useful to you, and it makes your life easier, right? And so that's what technology does, and so that's what why we exist at Trade with UFOs, is to help traders to make informed decisions, right, and gain confidence, in their decision making around the decisions that they're trying to make every single day, and whatever style, right? I mean, you could be in the forex market, you could be in the futures market, you could be in the CFD markets, you could be in the crypto market, right? And you need tools, right? I mean, you don't want to have 5 different phones, right, for 5 different countries, right? And so you just want the one phone to take a while, which is able to do many different things, right? And so similar with our technology, right? Our apps that we have, you want to be able to use them. You want to be able to deploy them, in any market, in any sort of time frame that you want, right? And so that's what we do. That's what we're on about. So let's go to the markets now, right? As we try to understand a little bit better what's going on out there. Okay. And so starting with the dollar index, we have had this move to the downside, right, over the last 5 days. And so this is what the auto climate on the daily chart, as we're looking at here, is telling us, is that the environment is more conducive to selling, right? And so we would want to look for areas in relation to the dollar, right, where there is selling. Now the question is the move to this downside over, right? And so this is where the statistics here kind of come into play, where the app calculates, right, in terms of the upward climates, the up climates, generally how long does that up move last for, right? And so here we have 5.27 days in this case, because we're in the daily chart. In terms of down moves, we tend to see downward moves last for about 5.14 days. And so that's what we see here, right, is we've had this downward move currently about 5 days. Now, of course, to get that sort of statistic, it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be more, right? If we go to the past, right, we see that the moves can be quite sustained, right? But there have been times where we've had moves that last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, right? Or 7 days here. We've had upward moves which last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, right? And so these statistics, right, that show up here take into account the fact that, hey, sometimes we may have a sustained move that lasts for for quite a while, right? But other times it's a little shorter, right? And so what this is telling us then, auto climate is telling us, is that, hey, we've had a downward move for the last 4 days. This is probably going to be the fifth day of an environment that is conducive to selling, and but it may be over, right? And clearly what we're seeing today is some sort of upward move in the dollar, right? So is this going to lead to some sort of change in trend? We'll know by the end of today. Okay, so this auto climate will be confirmed, in terms of its status by the end of the day, which according to this is in about 9 hours. Okay. All right. So what's happening in the other markets here? As we kind of looked at, Aussie had moved lower, right? We had quite a sustained up move, right, over 11 days. Actually, so it's 13 days. We've had a strong move to the upside. But is that going to be changing soon? We'll see. Same with the New Zealand dollar. It's actually been pretty strong. Just click over here. It's been going also for about 13 days. But now we're seeing some selling pressure come in. Euro, as we saw, kind of inverse to the dollar. We've had a sustained up move for about 5 days, and also starting to move lower today. The pound has been, really, except for a pause in the middle here, it also had been quite strong to the upside. Also came to a bit of a pause. The dollar CAD has also moved strongly lower and had moved up over the last week or so. The Swissy as well had a big strong move to the upside. Now we're seeing a bit of a retracement coming through. The yen has already moved back towards the lows of the prior huge move to the upside, right? Or the weakness really in yen, right? Which has just gotten stronger, and so they're the major markets that we're seeing now. I think of interest is of late has actually been the Kiwi. As we've seen the commodities, if we look at other commodity, US-based commodity markets such as soybean, corn, it's actually been pretty strong, as the dollar has been weak, So along with all of that has been a lot of the commodity markets, the Aussie, the Euro, the Aussie, the New Zealand dollar, and the Canadian dollar has actually been quite strong, in such a sustained move as we've seen, like over the last really 13 trade days, so almost 2 weeks, right? We've had this move to the upside, so very strong moves to the upside, and kind of pausing a little bit. So are we going to see some sort of reversal coming in, or not, right? So last week we're at this point here, and it looked like we were putting in a little bit of a double top, but then we had this strong sort of hammer kind of come in the day after. So and then continuation to the upside. So here we are on Thursday. Prices have kind of sold off, and so this is going to be the daily high from yesterday that we're going to have to determine to see whether prices is going to regain that. Now where auto UFOs comes in and can be useful is to help us also identify some those areas where there has been interest in selling. And if we come across to the left here and look at this area, right? We can see that this whole area here, okay, is where we've had prices come up to try and challenge, kind of tagged it there, never made it up on these other attempts, okay. And so if we kind of look at this this area here, okay, where we have had previous attempts at to get back up to this 69.70 72 area. Okay, I'm just going to round that out. Okay, and we've had this area down here, so I'm just going to call that 69.112. Just zoom back over here, and that's where we're in here. We're in this area which we had tested before, but there is still, you know, some potential interest to head to these, you know, back up to 69.72. Now, is that going to happen? You know, when is it going to happen? We don't know, but we do know that we're probably due for some sort of pause before, you know, trying to attempt that again. But as you can see here, every time we've gotten up to this area, you know, we've kind of moved lower. So we've got a double top here. Also, we had a bit of a shooting star here before moving lower. Also, a bit of a you know, shooting star here, and kind of you know, covered on both sides by you know, a strong up move and then a strong down move. So what sort of situation we're going to have here, we will see, but definitely there is some pressure to the downside, and so it'll be interesting to see over the next day or two whether we can get some follow through beyond these lows. So if I can just highlight these daily lows here, right, and that kind of frames at things. Now, one of the things that we can learn from the past is, you know, where does the climate change, right? So you know, in terms of using, how do we use auto climate, right? So in terms of the auto UFOs, it identifies location, right? So where are the sellers? Where are the buyers? And so we see that in terms of the sellers, there are still sellers potentially interested in selling up here, but we have had selling go on in the past around these areas. But what was the climate like, right? So we did have an up climate, right, for, you know, for a couple of sessions further, right, is what we see here before, you know, there's a strong move down, right? And so that tends to be the change in trend, right? Or you know, or a pause, right? So we only get the confirmed change in trend on the next day, right? So that's the thing that we can see there. In this prior highs up here, you know, where it actually hit this area, right? We still had an uptrend for a good, you know, after it kind of hit that area, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it really only after that strong move down that we had up that pause, right? So, you know, so what does that tell us, right? It tells us that you know, that we kind of need to watch, right? If we're going to, before we can even catch this sort of, if we want to catch this sort of move, right? either you have to be in it up here, right, in up to these levels, and then you just have to wait, right? You just have to wait until the climate changes, right? Which may mean that, well, you know, you need to be doing your assessment in terms of climate on a different time frame, depending on your you know, style of trading, right? But because, you know, normally you'd want to be you know, looking for buying opportunities if the climate is up, right? But of course, you know, as we reach these highs, you kind of know that that this location, right, is where the sellers come in, and so you probably want to hold off on buying until because that move to the upside had been quite you know, quite sustained already, right? And so that's why it comes back down to, you know, here, right? So if we just go back to where we are today, right? So even though we've had, you know, a sustained move to the upside, we know that it's pretty long in tooth. You know, it's it doesn't in the past tend to go up for 13 days in a row, right? It's only been about 5 and a bit, right? And so this is something that we need to keep in mind, right, when we're trying to make our trading decisions. We don't make it in isolation, right? And so that's why it's you know, trading is you know, about looking at you know, the bigger picture, you know, of especially the climate, right? So that you can make an informed decision. So it's two things, you know, it's the climate, but also location, right? So you know that, right? If you're coming towards, right, the, you know, the end of the expressway, right, you've got to slow down, right? If you're going to the off ramp, you got to slow down, right? If that's, you know, where you need to get off in order to get onto the other roads, right? You need to slow down. You can't go off at the same speed, right? And so that's the same thing here, right? Are you at the off ramp, right, of a buying mode, right? And if you are, then you better slow down, right? You better slow down your buying, right? Your bias towards buying, because you're kind of at the end of the highway in that sort of sense, right? And so you don't know that unless you know the locations, right, of where the sellers are likely to come in, you know, in this case, you know, where we're looking at the New Zealand dollar, right? And so the assessment that we're doing here, right, is pretty crucial, right? Because and it's more useful at these high time frames because you know that you have time, right? You're making a strategic decision. You're trying to make sure that you know the capital that you're going to deploy is going to be deployed in a way that you know, that makes sense, right? So if you're at a point at which, you know, there may be this change in direction, right? Because we've reached you know, a location where there is the potential for sellers to come in in a bigger way, right? Is to, you know, is why we look at things at this, you know, at these you know, strategic levels, you know. And so the thing that we always say, right, is that, you know, if there is going to be this change in trend, then it's required, right, that you need to have follow through if it really is going to be a change in trend. And what's going to indicate that change in trend is going to be, you know, things like we've, you know, reached a point at which there are, you know, have been in the past sellers who have come in, right, which is the case here, or an indication from apps such as auto UFOs that indicate to us that where those areas are, where there has been or will be, you know, sellers in this case interested in coming in at, right? And so we saw that at 69.75, right? But for the moment, we're kind of retesting for this area, right, under 69.72, right? So it's really this area right here, 69.70, probably 69.70 down to this 69.12 level, where there was in the past sellers interested in selling, and so that's what we're starting to see now, right? Is there was an attempt to move higher. It hasn't gotten further, right, than the 69.40, 46 area, and so that's going to be, from a daily perspective, the price point at which the buyers need to exceed. They need to push price through that level if they're going to get to be able to sell, right, at higher prices, which is what they want to do, right? And so the question is there enough buyers, right, up at this point willing to buy, or are they going to be overwhelmed by sell orders coming in at this level, which is what has happened in the past? Okay, so logically, potentially where could they be targeting? Well, it looks like we had these prior highs here, which were exceeded before, and so this probably would be a good area that if the sellers did manage to bring price down to this area here, right, then we've had prior highs before, then that could be an interesting target. If we want to check with the auto UFOs, well, okay, there you go. That is per the auto UFOs, an area of interest, okay, for buyers to step in. And again, you could be a support and resistance, classic support and resistance, a user, right, as part of your strategy for making a decision. Well, this is a deal area for you, right? Because previously prices could not exceed, right, this let's call it 68 level, right? But at this point it did, and that kind of set the new floor in prices, right? And so are we going to see 68 again? There has been some other attempts, right, but pushed away, and so we need to see how the next couple of days probably form out. So we've got Friday, and then probably going into next week, we will see how prices play out. Okay, so but that's one area there. We just take away that line, and if we go down to smaller time frames now, so if we go down to the 4-hour time frame, we can already see that the climate on this time frame had already changed, right? Earlier today, right? So about 1, 2, 3. It's about 12 hours ago. We saw that climate change from up to down, and so again, this is the practical use of auto climate is that it can be very useful to, at those lower time frames, to get a sense of where there is a change in the trend, a potential change in the climate, right, at those lower levels, and which ultimately will build up, right, to those higher levels. So again, if we go back to those prior areas, right, which we've been looking at previously, that price had tested up at the 69 area. Okay, what was happening, right, before that huge plunge, right? Before that huge plunge, there was that retest, right, of this area, and then we went kind of neutral, right, with the plunge. So that really wouldn't have helped us too much there. Here there was that emerging of the plunge, right? And so again, that retest of some of these high areas, either you got in up here or you had to get in on a retest, and that's kind of similar here. You either had to get in here or you get in on, in this case, as a clearer retest, right? And so what are we seeing out here? Right, so either you got in up here or are you going to get in on some sort of retest? And so on this time frame, right, where is the retest area that could be good to get into? And I would suspect it's probably going to be around here, right? Again, if you are a support turns resistance, resistance turns support, classic user, you would also see this area, right, as an area where price had broken higher, these highs, and now this is kind of had retested it, kind of broke that area, and so now that resistance area is now, or that support area has now become resistance, and so because it had a similar area here, and so we could check with the UFOs, and here again, it's helping us align our classic, definitions, give us that extra confidence, right? That the area that we've identified as an area to go short at is there, and so that's what technology should give us, right? Is consistency, confidence, right? And out of confidence emerges consistency, right? Because we need to believe, that the phone works, right? And that's why people like Samsung. That's why people like iPhones, because they work, right? And they work because they have confidence that it works, and so then they become consistent users of it, right? And so the same thing with any sort of technology, any sort of methodology. You need to develop confidence in it, in that it's going to give you that consistent calculation, right, or identification of an area that is going to be useful to help you make as part of your decision making. So here we're looking at going short, right? Probably at around, if you want to get in a little earlier, 69, otherwise it's 69.02. Okay, and so we're going to kind of plan out this trade here, trade opportunity. And so here, the other benefit of auto UFOs is that it's going to highlight to you, okay, where the entry, but also where is the, an ideal location for a stop. Now, depending on your broker, depending on, this kind of, whether you're trading using spreads or whether you are trading commissions with narrow spreads, you can, you may need to adjust, right, your entry and your stop levels, right, because of that spread, and so you may need to give a bit of a buffer. So here, what we can do here is say, okay, let's just get in at 69, and then give a little bit of extra room on the upside, so maybe 15 pips. For the stop, and if we just want to do a, let's say, say a 3-to-1, right, type of trade. Where does that take us? Right, it takes us down to this area here. Okay, so it's not even fully maximizing the target that we could go down. Now, if we did want to come all the way down here, right, then that would be more like a 6-to-1 sort of trade. Okay, which is not bad either. So depending on your style of trading, your plan for entries and exits, right? You can set your own targets according to whichever risk and reward. But what is beneficial here is that we know that, okay, there's buying interest here in the past, and so we could probably expect buying interest in the future, and so anywhere to get out prior to that point is fine. So that's what we would expect here, and so we want to, we're going to have to wait, right? So if we plan a little trade here, you can manage your risk. So let's say you just want to risk $100, right? And maybe round out your position size. Let's make it 65, right? Something like that. So for every so risking 97.50 to make just under $600. So that's a 61 trade, 621 trade, and so we can let's just place that in there, and that way we can see what we will get next week. Okay, so I'm going to take a little screenshot of this so that we can review this next week, right? So I'm going to save that and take a little screenshot. Okay, copy that image, and I'm just going to put that in my slides for next week, because then what we can do is review this. Now, where's my PowerPoint gone? PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to move this up the top here, my other screen, and it's something that we can review next week, okay, to see how that worked out. All right, so maybe we'll do like this, and okay, so I'm just going to pop that in my PowerPoint for next week. Okay, so if we are looking for a continuation of this down move here, this is an opportunity that we can take into account. And again, we need to see price exceed this level here, this pivot here, if we're going to see a continued up move. But until that point in time, we can just keep it highlighted. Right, so maybe put some text here, just call it a pivot, all right, just to take note of. Okay, all right, and we'll keep that there, ready and waiting now. Now we do have other tools that people may use, such as trend line breaks, right? So probably previously if you had a trend line up here, it's broken. So again, different folks use different methodologies for framing, their the decisions that they make, right? But I would say that with a change in potential trend here, just trend line break, also being at these highs, right, which were previously tested. The conditions are emerging, right, as we've seen here with this move to the downside. An opportunity here to do a retest, and you could look at the other pairs as well as we kind of wind down our session here. You can look at other
opportunities, right, for a change in trend, right, for say pound New Zealand, right. If we go to Euro New Zealand,
right? Maybe there's also some opportunity here, right? There's also already been a bit of a retest there. Same with that pound and New Zealand. Okay. If we also go to New Zealand pairs and New Zealand CAD, right? Can kind of look at this area here. Okay, and we may need to go to the lower time frames in order to check that out. Okay, we've had some testing here before. And New Zealand yen. Okay, so you see there's some selling pressure that has come here before the top here. Okay, and again, this is also where the order UFOs, if I just flag that on, okay, it's a tested area here, but there's also a new area down here, right? So I can do this very confidently, very expeditiously, right? Let the computer, let the app do the work for me, right? So of course you can build up experience. As you build up experience, right, you're able to, anticipate where those areas are going to be. But sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're busy, you don't have a lot of time, and you kind of have a general idea, but you kind of like what I did, right? Highlighted those areas of interest and then use the app to help confirm those areas, right? Or refine the area, right, that I need to look at, right? So nothing here in this time frame from a buying perspective. And so sometimes you do need to refine your areas to look at, right, for buying. Now, whether you actually do that or not, right, again, you can't just apply all of this, without thinking, right? You need to be strategic, right? Also get a bigger perspective of where price has been before. All right, let's just go to Euro New Zealand. Right, so here we again, right, kind of got that general area. It's a retested area, but then there's a new UFO here. So similar to what we saw on New Zealand dollar, there was an area which can come back to before continuing on its journey. So let's also look at Aussie, New Zealand. So this one, right, has this area down here. It's on the 4 hour. Okay. And so it's all about helping you gain confidence, and from confidence comes your consistency. Okay. So there we have, right, New Zealand, right, kind of identified and set up, and we will see coming into next week, how do these New Zealand pairs kind of play out. Okay, so very quickly, I've gone through how AutoClimate, how we can use AutoClimate, how we can use Auto UFOs in terms of using it to identify those areas, for buying or selling, and whether the environment overall is conducive to buying and selling. And it's a perfect complement to those of you who use support and resistance, even if you use Fibonacci's, if you use moving averages, Bollinger Bands, stochastics, RSI. I mean, there's so many different additional tools that you can use in your decision making, which I'm sure many of you do use. And AutoClimate as well as Auto UFOs is a great complement to any of those strategies that you currently use as well. Okay, well, let's end it off there for tonight or this morning for those of you in the stateside. thank you for joining us today. If you do have any questions, feel free to email me. Right at I'm just going to show up this splash page again. Right, just over here. Go back here. Okay, you can email me, andrew@tradewithufos.com. Please do sign up for the free newsletter at www.tradewithufos.com/Andrew, and also join us next week in some of the other sessions that myself and the other instructors are running, and we will catch you later. Okay, take care. Bye for now.